Hi, welcome to Advent of Refactoring, day 19. So we're going to be looking at some more refactoring things we can do within Django. We have an events listing view here, which gets a list of all of the future events and sort of puts it into the context. That's being rendered here in the template, and we're taking a thing called JSON data and rendering it as JSON, giving it this JSON ID. The JSON data is returned as a property here on the model, and it's sort of building this thing in the right sort of shape it wants, and then the JSON ID it's also putting together here. This future live events is on the query set, which is built up of all of these individual pieces. And this works pretty well, and all of the individual pieces are fairly clean and sensible, stuff like that. What we're going to be looking at today is moving things from the model across to a query set method, moving things into the database. For the exact example today, this might seem a bit silly, but it's a useful pattern to be able to do. So we'll start off with this JSON ID thing here. So what we'll do is we take this method here and we'll just comment it out so it's no longer there. That means this is now broken. There is no event.json ID. Instead, what we're going to do is add a new annotation method here. So def annotate JSON ID self. And we're going to return self.annotate annotate. One word I cannot ever spell. JSON ID equals what? So if we go back to the models here, this is the text of the JSON ID. And we can't just use an F string here, because that's trying to do the conversion in Python, and we need to do it in the database. So instead what we can do is we can say from django.db.models.functions import concat, and we can say from django.db.models import f for field and value. Well, those could be part of there, couldn't they? Anyway, so here we have different pieces of text. We've got that initial bit, we've got the self ID. This event data is a piece of text. It's the value that we're passing to the database. So we'll say value. And the self.id, that's a field on the model. So that's going to be a field called ID. We want to join the two together, so concatenate the strings. So concat. So we've now said that JSON ID is going to be a concatenation of this value, event data underscore, and this field ID. And it should pretty much handle that. It's possible you might need to do a cast for some data types to get them into the right format, but otherwise we've just moved all of the logic of building that string into the database rather than it being as a model field. That means you can use it directly in exports and other sorts of things there. What about this more complicated thing, this JSON data thing? Can we do the same? Of course we can. So let's grab that so we've got the idea of what we're doing, move into the query set here, and let's add a new method, def annotate JSON data self. Let's paste this in so we can see the shape of thing we want to add, and just comment that out. What we're going to do is, again, self return self.annotate. We want a JSON data equals JSON object, and do stuff. We'll define the JSON object next. We also need to import that JSON object, which comes from DB model functions, so JSON object. So now we can define what stuff we want to have inside the JSON object. We want to have an ID, which is going to be the field called ID. We want to have a title, which is going to be the field which is called name. And we want the external URL is going to be, again, one of those concats. So concat value and this stringy bit here, all that stuff. And and it's going to be concatenated to self.id. And finally, it's going to end up with another value, which is that trailing slash. So now we're adding a new annotation, JSON data, which is this JSON object with all of those things in there as parts of the field. So we can delete that. So we've now got two new methods on the query set. So we go back to our views here, and then we can say dot annotate JSON data to add the JSON data thing, and dot annotate JSON ID. So we've now moved those pieces out of the model definition here, and instead moved them into the query set so they're being built on the database. Sometimes this is a good thing to do, sometimes not. It can be a massive performance benefit in some instances. It can slow things down in others. So be careful and decide if it's a good idea or not for your use case. See you tomorrow.